Hyper-Aware of a Spiritual Realm by E.N.E. Chapter 7, Family. One of the most universal human needs is to feel a sense of belonging, stability, and safety. It's the foundation for our entire world. It took me a long time to recognize that a lot of the ways I felt growing up were actually valid and normal. I felt a deep need to be surrounded by family, but many of my family members moved away when I was still really young and developing. There were already a lot of hardships at home when I was little. There was almost constant crises that would start to feel inevitable. Over time, I think I felt guilty for wanting things I couldn't have, like spending time with people who were kind to me, or simply feeling joy. Most of my early childhood is a blur. I developed coping mechanisms I later became ashamed of. I was so confused. I didn't really have a set period of time where I remember still having innocence. If I did, it was very short-lived. For years and years, there were so many things I thought were normal. I thought it was normal to have chronic depression, fatigue, and no vision for my future. I couldn't even imagine myself becoming an adult. It's like I was stuck, frozen in time. I thought it was normal to constantly use forms of escapism. I firmly believed that sex was bad, through and through, and the idea of marriage was nothing but a lie. I became very cynical, I think. I couldn't cope with reality, so I got lost in other worlds. It's hard to write about these things and admit these experiences. For a long time, many years, I would just be quiet to the point of silent suffering, possibly a high pain tolerance in some ways, and coping mechanisms to escape into another world. I also want to say I do love my family, but acknowledging the pain and reality of ways I wasn't always treated well, or even not properly loved, is just as important to say. The truth will set you free. It's through God's grace and certain specific people in my life who also desire healing and want to do better that I have found any sense of healing and peace at this point in my life. I've learned that when we're children, we literally can't understand certain things about life. That's why it's so wrong to expect children to carry adult responsibility. They can't. It's really as simple as that. I forgive the people and adults who wronged me, but that doesn't mean the scars have vanished, and it doesn't mean that I don't have strict boundaries now. I've learned that if someone else is uncomfortable with the fact they've done me wrong, it's not my job to make them feel better. I don't let people take advantage of my empathy anymore. I will be kind because that's what I value, but I will say no when I have to. My body, emotions, and kindness have never belonged to anyone else except me and God. I think it was Charlie Chaplin who once said, "Your naked body should only belong to those who fall in love with your naked soul." And it gives me chills. I feel like I've been learning for the first time what it means to properly love. I wasn't able to know when I was young. I always felt confused. Love didn't make sense. The only thing I felt like I knew for sure was that it resulted in some kind of pain one way or another. I knew I was full of love, but it felt like it had nowhere to go, which I believe is the definition of grief. I just wanted to belong. Writing, watching shows, and playing video games were the main ways I coped. I struggled with something I've learned in recent years is called limerence, which is the obsession with the idea of love while hating the idea of real intimacy. This was me to a T. I had a couple of best friends I didn't see very often, but I really didn't thrive in social situations. I will admit I was very lonely, but not for company. I deeply needed valuable connection, a sense of belonging and unconditional love, and another chance at an innocent childhood. I think it's so important to acknowledge both the good and bad, the horrors and the moments of solace. Through different therapies, I found relief in something that is such a huge coping tool as visualizing a safe place, whatever that is for you. I have found certain tools to be very grounding, helping me feel safe in my body again, even for only a moment. The relief often brings me to tears. I try to listen to children as much as I can, and I try to read their behaviors instead of judging them. If a child is crying uncontrollably or even throwing a tantrum that has nothing to do with them being quote-unquote bad, the amount of control we have when we are that small is minuscule. It shatters my heart at times because I can see in the world I live in at this point in time, we don't value children as we ought. I see how children are used, made to grow up faster than they should, abused in various ways, invalidated, religiously traumatized. I find it devastating. And at the same time, I want to remind myself of what Fred Rogers said about look for the helpers. It's true. Even in the midst of so much injustice and pain, there are those who offer relief in the midst of suffering. Someone to hold a hand when the other believes they are completely alone. A friend of mine gave me a gentle reminder during one of the darkest times in my life. He told me, it may be hard to find people that will help you, but it's worth it once you find them. And at the same time, he completely validated how I should be angry at what had happened to me. It's completely possible to recognize how wrong something is, while also offering hope and healing. Family is so important, and it can even be fascinating to learn about lineage and history of ancestors. But family is also more than blood. I really do believe that, as deeply as the marrow of my bones. I was validated and wanted by people who only knew me as me, no context of my family or where I was from. At the same period of time, I had blood relatives having nothing to do with me. It pains me to write that, and I don't enjoy it in the slightest. But I also have to acknowledge the gratitude I feel for the people who held my heart as though it was precious and tender, not something to be trampled on or abandoned entirely. I have struggled to embrace the love I've been shown, I won't lie. It has been one of the most painful experiences of my life. I have not been the friend I've wanted to be, and it has made me feel quite guilty at times. I am forever grateful at the same time, though, because I found a small circle of true kindred spirits. Healing is a painful process and not linear at all, but it's what God has always longed for me, and yes, for you too. I have survived so much. I'm still here. God has not abandoned me even if others did, and He held my hand through it all. A quote by Sarah Kroger. For a world that is broken, your heart was torn open, so that we could be an unbroken family. He is still good.